Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. Each of us is here tonight for a cause we care deeply about, ending the shattering of our families due to the addiction to drugs and alcohol. For so many of us, it is personal, afflicted with this disease ourselves or someone in our family, or having suffered through the most horrific tragedy, the death and loss of someone we loved so dearly. For me, 10 years ago today, I was woken up in the middle of the night and told my son Brian had just died. He was 25 years old. After Brian's death, I struggled with two questions. What could I have done differently as a father? And what could be done to spare other families the tragedy my family had suffered? When I was emotionally ready, I traveled the country for 3 months seeking answers to these questions. What I found destroyed me all over again. Proven research on the prevention and treatment of addiction sitting there, buried in medical journals, that could have helped my son and millions of others. What was missing was an organization to get this information out, get it implemented, and protect our families. From this, a vision emerged of uniting millions of Americans and empowering them to ensure that our society got this done. Shatterproof was formed to do this. As I reflect on these past 10 years, I have so many emotions. I see pictures of Brian on the walls in our home, reminding me of so many wonderful memories.
Say hello.
Hello.
And watching old videos brings Brian to life.
Manly bites. He's up. Can I see your muscle?
You're looking at
Show me your muscle.
His laugh.
That's pretty good.
Living large. Living large. Greg, you having a good time?
His love of the outdoors. His love for his family and friends. I miss my son so much, and it weighs on me heavily knowing that if I had better understood this disease, he might not have died. But even worse, far worse, I now better understand the shame he felt the last 8 years of his life. It kills me. Shame he didn't deserve. At the same time, I have also had the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people. Hundreds of thousands of families all across our country have joined our cause. Hundreds of companies, almost 30 laws passed in states and federally, and numerous science-based associations have embraced and advocated for us. Together, we are not only saving lives, but we are also changing the system, changing the way our nation will prevent and treat addiction for generations. To quote from one of the letters you heard earlier this evening, the stigma, the lies, the myths will be gone because of Shatterproof. As our society begins to change the way we think about this disease, more people will feel loved and connected, fewer will die, and fewer families will be shattered beyond repair. My son did not die of an overdose. He took his life at 25 years old when he hadn't used a substance in 13 months. So why? I've never had to wonder. He told us in his suicide note. It's about not being treated like a human, he wrote, especially one who has worked so hard to get back to normal. My son didn't see a world where he could be looked at as normal. As a young man who got sick, could get treated in our healthcare system, and then could get better and live a full and fulfilling life. Together, we are changing this for the next young man or next young woman to come along, the next family. Please join us in doing so. I can't imagine a more perfect expression of humanity. Thank you.
We each have a very special, individual, very personal connection with him. And he and I were connected throughout Sierra Tucson. And I just remember watching him get really better at Sierra Tucson. Like, I watched him get better.
Kind of became like an older brother for me there. And that relationship went on for, years after that, even after we parted ways and left. And he always kept in contact with me, and phone calls all the time, and he loved everybody for who they were, and that was it. And I loved him for that.
Brian was obviously someone who went through a lot, and I was dealing with whatever I was dealing with as a 22-year-old, and he helped me with that. And so every day we would walk and pick fruit off people's trees and get hot cocoa, and he would get full fat hot cocoa with extra whipped cream, which I thought was funny at the time, because if there was plant-based milk back then, that's probably what I would have gotten. But we were just very different, but we also appreciated a little bit of each other.
This is a guy who I consider one of my best friends, even though we had grown apart a little bit. He was still one of my closest friends in my life. And I was just embarrassed that I didn't know what he had, the extent of the deeper part of his troubles. And you wish you could have been there for someone.
Even now, I still feel like there's such a stigma, like
even now,
even after COVID, after everybody like sort of had some mental health issues, like it's really like not okay to talk about.
He wanted his life back. He had all these plans and dreams, and he wanted to become a treatment counselor, and he was writing, he was passionate, and most importantly, he just wanted out. He was, at that point, he was maybe a year sober when I first met him, or when he passed away. It was 13 months. It was, what more do I have to do to get my life back?
He felt judged a lot, and he felt ashamed a lot. And I felt like that, and looking back on it now, I feel like that he really just, he thought that he had failed in some way or another. And he kind of just wanted a second chance and to make things better.
And the phone rang, and it was a Connecticut number. It was a Connecticut area code, but it wasn't Brian's, and he's the only person I knew that lived in Connecticut. And I saw that number, and I knew. And it was, I can't tell you how I knew. I saw that number and I knew. I think I cried more about Brian than I've ever cried about anyone, and I can't explain why.
Whether it's friends or family or my patients now, just giving them space to talk and tell you what's wrong. It's usually not, usually I don't need to ask a lot of questions. I just can kind of open it up and people tell me what they need to tell me. So I think, I think about Brian a lot, and I see him in a lot of my patients. And I try to, take some of what Brian taught me and use it every day.
He had plans, and he was looking towards the future, and all he talked about was the future. He didn't step forward. He walked forward all the time.
When I think about what a beast Brian would have been had he made it to the other side, he had so many amazing gifts that if he had just been able to harness them in time, he would have been an unstoppable advocate. He would have just been an incredible force for healing for so many people. And the good news is he did touch a lot of people. He changed the trajectory of my life easily. And I am definitely a better person doing better work because of it.
As a society, we could have done better for him and for other people. And there was a lot more we could have done, and accepting people, and accepting addiction and depression and anxiety and all that comes along with it.
I keep this on my jewelry stand, this photo of Brian. I stole this from Gary and printed and cut it, but I love this picture. And I keep this there because whenever I leave for work or leave for my day, I see this, and I feel like he's just with me, and he's just saying, you got this. And then when I come home and when I'm having a hard day, I just feel like he's with me. And, Brian struggled with depression, and I wish that he was able to know that those feelings do pass, that there's help for depression, there's help for addiction, and both are treatable.
Isabel, can you hold that up to the camera one more time so we could just get a good look at that? That is hilarious. That is like the most Brian-y look.
Thanks, Brian.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Jamie, I'm honored to give you this award this evening in memory of my son, Brian. You've done so much for so many years to help so many people related to this disease, and I'm proud to call you a friend of Shatterproof. Thank you so very much.